Hi there, I'm Marty Owings, and today I'm going to paint this landscape, this portrait, and I'm going to use the following gear to do both of these. I'm going to use a half flat, a number 10 Da Vinci flat, a number 6 Da Vinci flat, a number 4 round, and a number 2 Escoda round. And I'll use these colors to do both paintings. A titanium white, a pure red and Indian yellow, a primary yellow, an ultramarine blue, Prussian blue, yellow ochre, raw sienna, sepia, and black. All right, well, here we go. I'm going to paint this orange tint in first. I just block it in, but I'm not used to using that bright orange paint, so I removed a little bit of it by just wetting the brush and going over some of the spots I'd already painted. Just kind of add that lightness to the folds. Then I'm going to block in these trees here, just large shapes really, not a lot of detail in these, adding a little foliage just to get an idea of shapes and areas that I want to paint. Now, some of you might see the sky going in here and think to yourselves, well, why didn't you just paint the sky back in the background first? And the answer to that really is, I guess, painter's preference for one, and then the other one is that gouache, even though it dries flat, it's still, you can still pick it up. So if I was to paint a blue sky, for instance, and then put like a yellow leaf on top of that sky, it's bound to turn green because the colors will mix a little bit. I didn't want my colors muddy, so I just did what I could to try to block in the sky, and I think it came out just fine. So if you want to take that artistic license, you can obviously do that. Some people will say, paint the background with a casein or something like that that won't lift, and that's fine as well. In case you're not familiar with gouache, it's an opaque medium and will tend to, like I said, dry flat. So if that's not an effect you're looking for, you may want to try oil or watercolor or acrylics. Gouache is used in illustration, and at one time, I think it was called sign maker's paint, probably because if you see painted signs on supermarket windows and things like that in advertising, they're probably using a paint similar to gouache with a flat dry finish. So what's tricky about this painting really for me wasn't the trees or the background or really the composition, which I like. It's a tent, really kind of inspires camping near a lake, which is cool. But it's the ground. The ground here is tough to paint. Rocks and ground are interesting challenges for a painter. I think a lot of people would complain the foliages or the greenery in the background, but I don't really struggle with that too bad. It's more or less the ground here in the, no pun intended, the foreground here. But here you can see I did what I could, and I think it came out okay. And now I'm just going to add a few finishing touches, and this is mostly around adding some of the light in. And you'll see the rocks. There's a little bit of drama to the rocks because you've got a light hitting the rock face and then a shadow in the back end. And just try to be consistent throughout the painting with that, and did the best I could. This is less about a tutorial and more about just walking through a couple of paintings with you that I do or have done here, and then just kind of share with you a little bit of the approach and the experience so that if you want to try gouache, you won't be afraid to do it. Gouache is not a scary medium. It's an illustrator's medium and has been around for a long time, and it's really fun to use. I think if you try it, I think you'll like it. I got into gouache probably more heavily just recently after watching James Gurney paint with it and other painters that I really enjoy, and especially the illustrators from the 40s and 50s. So here's a picture, this picture complete, and I liked it. And somebody commented when I posted this on Instagram that it reminded them of an illustration from a children's book, and I really appreciate that. I hope so. That's what I was aiming for, and I think it looks kind of cool. Now, of all the painting I do, I think portraiture is probably the most difficult. More so because of all of the challenges with tonal value and shadow and just a whole variety of challenges you face when you paint a portrait, and getting it to be realistic and getting it to actually look like the person and finding that characteristic of the person that really stands out and makes it uniquely them. But I think when you get into skin tones, regardless of ethnicity, it's really important that you see the many variations in the tone of the person's skin color. Like, it's never completely pink. It's never completely caramel or brown. There's always like a ton of variation in the skin color. So here I'm just docking this bright headwear down with a little bit of, I'd call it more watery mix, and then I'm going to go back and kind of brush over that as well. But see, right now I realize that her nose is a little flat, and I've got some of the light in the wrong place. So I'm going to go back and fix that. And here I'm just a few finishing touches on this, and just trying to get it just about right. And it takes some amount of detail work, but I've been trying hard not to hurry it. But anyway, there she is. Well, thanks a lot for stopping by today. And for more, go over to owingsart.com, click that blue follow button, and join me on the artistic journey. I post maybe once a month, maybe a little more or less frequently depending, but I save stuff up and post it on the blog that I don't usually post elsewhere. But if you want to see stuff more frequently, check me out on Instagram or Facebook at owingsart. Also, check out the description for a list of all the gear I used today in the video. Again, thanks for stopping by, and have a great day, everybody. This has been Marty for owingsart.com.